In a development of far-reaching implications, the Vice President of India, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar, has made critical and pertinent comments about Indian judiciary. The focus area of his statement or comments could be broadly divided into two. On the one hand, he criticized certain judgments or acts which could be termed as overreaching the authority. On the other hand, he also criticized certain judgments pronounced by the court curtailing or the powers of president and governors, or which could be interpreted as giving directives to the president of India and governors. Again, he touched on a clutch of issues, a spectrum of questions, which are all related to the power of the judiciary. And eventually, the questions raised by Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar are related to the collegium, which appoints judges and in that way has got a responsibility about about the way in which judges conduct their responsibilities. So these are some of the serious questions raised by Vice President of India, and that needed to be discussed in detail. I doubt whether Indian media has discussed it in detail, especially the visual media, or whether they have given the speech of the Vice President the importance it really deserves. Perhaps, like many other groups or the public or institutions, the media is also shy about discussing when it comes to judiciary. Everybody thinks that they could be punished for making some criticisms which could be interpreted as against the court or questioning the court. So I think, to be on the safer side, people do not criticize or even judgments, though there is no legal ban against expressing opinions on judgments. Let's get to the bottom of the issue, trying to be impartial to the maximum possible extent as a human being can. Because I am also in two minds whether to discuss this issue, whether to invite the wrath of the court or to mention it, because this is something which is related to the day-to-day life of every Indians. These questions are related to the or connected to the future of India also. And I think such questions and discussions will enhance the credibility of these institutions and buttress or improve the faith of the public in those institutions. Welcome to Insights. I am Hari Kumar. As I said earlier, the comments made by Vice President of India, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar, were very relevant in the present context. This is against the backdrop of, the Supreme Court issuing or making pronouncing a judgment in which the court intervened in the gubernatorial and presidential powers related to passing of bills. The court set a time limit to president and governors on approving bills which were passed by state assemblies twice. So I think this is the backdrop of the whole thing. And the Kerala governor earlier had made a statement in which he said the institution of President of India should not be dragged into the court, and the court should not give directives to the president. The same feeling was echoed by Vice President of India. And when it comes to such issues, certain constitutional articles are interpreted differently by different people. The way court interprets it seems to be different from the way Vice President of India and Kerala Governor interpreted it. We don't know. I'm. I don't know especially whether or who is right. Perhaps the government will go in appeal to a higher bench in the Supreme Court, or perhaps the Supreme Court itself will refer the whole issue to a constitutional bench. That let us see, let us wait for that. But at the same time, certain questions asked by Vice President of India regarding transparency of judiciary needs to be discussed. That questions were related to reports that appeared in Indian media that cash, bundles of cash, currency notes were recovered from the home of, no, sorry, from the official residence of a judge in Delhi High Court. It happened during a fire, when a fire broke out, and the fire force people came and doused the fire. So they found stacks of notes, some of which was burned, and they recovered that, and that became a topic of discussion in the media. The Vice President asked, the whole topic came to be known, the whole issue came to be known only a week after it happened. Why did that happen? That's a pertinent question. Again, a 3-member judges committee is investigating or inquiring into it. Again, Vice President asks, who empowered them? As per the law in the land, it is the judges are not empowered to investigate. So the Vice President is observing that the judiciary is doing the job of the executive, which includes the police. And again, Vice President asked a very pertinent question. This committee can only give recommendation. They cannot act. So what about the nature, what about that aspect? So he raises several questions. He further adds that no FIR has been charged in the issue. When it comes to any constitutional functionary, be it himself or Vice President himself be, or other constitutional functionaries, whenever such an incident happened, FIR used to be filed. But in this case, that was not filed. So the Vice President sees something, like a paradox in this. So are judges immune to filing cases? Are just judges immune to law? The Vice President says only the President of India and governors have immunity to such against police action or filing cases. So these are very serious issues raised by the Vice President of India. Again, he points out that law needs to be enacted by Parliament. And if courts step into the area of enacting laws, then that equilibrium, which is essential for a healthy democracy, I mean, the equilibrium between, judiciary, executive, and the legislature will be lost. So these are all serious issues that affects the health of a democracy. And if one of the institutions gains upper hand, and if one institution gains hegemony over other branches, then that will raise serious threat to the health of the democracy. So this is a very important question. I think even after the Kerala governor raised the issue, nobody was found to respond to the issue. The court has also not responded. Nobody has filed a public interest litigation. I don't know whether a PIL can be filed in the issue. But since this is affecting the whole country, this is affecting the health, the democracy, there are many larger questions involved in this. I think the court itself will take the initiative. Again, all these questions eventually conclude in the institution of, the collegium, which appoints judges. For example, if there is an allegation of corruption against one judge, if there are allegations about opaqueness of the judiciary, then eventually the blame will be on the mechanism that selected those judges. Were all the necessary precautions taken while people were selected as judges? Or is there any mechanism to find out the details of certain people against whom allegations had been raised even earlier? So these are all some serious questions. If one group of people decide their successors themselves, how is that going to end up? So will it subvert the whole question of justice, the whole concept of justice? These are all serious questions. I think these questions will be addressed by the court itself. Anyway, let's wait for the response of the Supreme Court of India to the very serious comments made by the Vice President of India. Meet you with updates. Till then, goodbye.